Welcome to Business Mentorship, Keeping It Real, where we feature entrepreneurs and enterprise leaders who participate in our guest blog on shareyourstories.online. Our guest is Helen Hirsh Spence, who's an educator, speaker, and founder of Top 60 Over 60. She works with businesses to maximize their potential within a multi-generational workforce. Helen joins us today from Ottawa, Ontario. Welcome.
Thanks for having me, Trish.
Helen, you mentioned some interesting workplace statistics in our guest blog. One of them being that 10,000 people in the US turn 65 every day.
True. I mean, we're undergoing a demographic shift that most people seem not to recognize yet, which is unfortunate. Yeah.
I'm really shocked to also know that 25% of the Canadian population by 2026 will be 65 or over. That's really quite amazing.
I know 1 in 4 people will be over the age of 65. One of the fastest growing demographics today is the over 85 group.
So, what's really interesting is we're talking, and, a lot of the folks that we share stories with, a lot of them are going into second act careers.
That's right.
So they're clearly perhaps, retiring or choosing to exit from a position that they've had for a number of years. But then they move on to perhaps take a side hustle to the forefront or start something brand new. So tell us a little bit about your light bulb moment.
Oh, I will, but let me just go back to what you're talking about and caution you about the word retirement, because it's really an era of non-retirement.
Right.
That's what the 21st century could be all about. People are shifting focus. They're recognizing, especially after COVID, how precious time is, and they want to make sure that what they do is meaningful for the most part, and also contributing probably more and more to, future generations and, social impact. But my light bulb moment is pretty simple. I guess I was confronted with ageism at a point in time when I didn't expect it. It was following my career, let's put it that way, that lasted over 35 years. And I was thinking about what I wanted to do next. And I spent about 10 years in the not-for-profit sector, volunteering my time and efforts. But I wanted to do something else, something more. And I didn't know I would feel that way, of course, but then I just had more energy than I think I expected, because I myself was guilty of having internalized ageism to such an extent that I also believed what the myths were, that after a certain age, you can't do things anymore the way you used to. And that's so untrue, as I found out. In any case, so when I started applying for things that were of interest to me, I realized when I looked at who was the successful candidates, it was often somebody who was much, much younger than me. And I realized, I'm another one of those statistics, of people who need much more time to get the attention they deserve in order to find a job for which they're equally or more qualified for. So that was it. And then I was seeing among friends and colleagues how they were challenged by the transition from their first career or their work for pay into the next stage of their life. We, as women in particular, suffer from becoming quite irrelevant and invisible once we lose our titles, if we ever had them, And so I wanted to do something for, a group of people who were like-minded, like-staged, had similar energy. And really, what we're all about, we help businesses harness the opportunities of the mixed age workforce, but I also work with individuals and groups of people to harness and help them understand what this transition is all about and how to move on positively and successfully. So we have a subscription series that's coming up for groups of people or individuals. And also I work with businesses, because they are the ones that are really keeping out a whole segment of the workforce because of age bias. So it's about fighting ageism.
So how, if you're a candidate and you've decided that you want to transition into something that's a little bit different and you're applying for a position, and listen, we all know that the demographic for those who are looking for jobs tends to be younger than we are. So is there anything that you can do in your resume or in your covering letter, or I even hear that folks are doing videos to apply for jobs these days. So is there a little tidbit of advice that you can give to someone who's decided they want to submit a resume to an organization to try to be noticed?
Well, that isn't my area of expertise, but a tip that I would say would be make sure that you take a look at what the business or the organization is all about, and use the vocabulary that's being used in the ad. But
Right.
really and truly, I wouldn't want to take responsibility for any of that area, because I haven't really, I've started some, I would advise people like I did to consider perhaps something new and different, like an entrepreneurial venture.
Right.
You know?
So tell us about Top 60 over 60. What exactly do you do for folks who are in that age group?
So really and truly, what we do two things. We work with the businesses, and what we help them through consulting, training, and speaking engagements, understand what it means today to be older. It's not the same as what it was once upon a time. Our grandparents had a completely different age span and experience than we did. Those of us who are in our 60s today have the benefit of being better educated, healthier, more active lifestyles. And we have, through technology and medicine, acquired really an extra 30 years to our lives, which is huge.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
Huge.
yeah, I know it's huge. So it really means that we have to help employers understand that 60 today is not 60 what it was. And because we've grown up in a period which is so youth-centric, unbelievably so, we've lost track very often of what the potential is of older adults. And it damages individuals, it damages society, and it's definitely hurting the economy. And we can see that today. We've got a shortage of labor, and yet I can't tell you how many people do not even consider hiring those who are over 50 or 55. And for two reasons, really. One, they think that they may be getting ill more often, which is not proven. In fact, they take less time off than people who are younger. And also, they don't necessarily retire when people think they're going to retire. So a lot of businesses will say, I'm not hiring somebody close to 60 because they're going to retire. But they don't take into account the fact that younger people often get trained and work in an organization for 2 or 3 years, and then they look for something else. So the benefits of having somebody with experience sometimes outweighs the recruiting and training costs of hiring an individual who is less experienced. And I am not advocating against youth by any means. All I'm trying to do is help people understand that there is a tremendous opportunity in harnessing the strengths of experience, which is what older people bring to the workforce.
That raises a really great point, because one of the things that can happen in any, whether it's an entrepreneurial environment or, in paid employment, so per se, is there's a wonderful connection and sharing of ideas that you can, the blending, shall we say, of that experience between youth and experience, because some folks may have an area of interest that is unlike someone else. And when you dovetail that experience together, you can actually create some wonderful magic, and some great things can end up happening. So in terms of mentorship, do you hear about folks in business looking to start mentorship programs? Because we know with the exodus of people, leaving the workforce at all ages, especially now in our current economic time, we're losing experience.
Absolutely, yeah. It seems like it's almost as if in this country we haven't recognized at all the whole issue around ageism,
Right.
well, it's really quite damaging, as I said at the outset.
Mhm.
It's so damaging that the World Health Organization just put out a global report on ageism, in which it identifies that 1 out of 2 persons globally is ageist against older adults. It's frightening.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway, but it's essential. So going back to mentoring happens informally and formally.
Mhm. Absolutely.
And I think that, again, that informal network of what I would call co-mentoring or mutual mentoring or
Mhm.
reciprocal mentoring
Mhm.
happens on a daily basis and is invaluable. And the research again shows that when there are mixed age workforces, it tends to help with retention and greater productivity and an improved bottom line, because people want to stay. Because if you can create a culture that is psychologically safe across the different age silos, it makes for a much, much healthier environment.
You know, I think that's really a wonderful statement to make, because creating a culture of health and wellness and inclusivity is really, I think, what we're going to be looking for in the future, because we're seeing that there's going to be sort of hybrid business models. Some folks will be working at home a few days a week.
Exactly.
They're going to go into the office a few days a week. You know, they're going to be doing Zoom calls. So, you know, creating that connectivity, I think, is going to be first and foremost, regardless of age, really.
You're absolutely right. And I think so when we work with individuals, it's also to help them overcome what has been built into their heads over a lifetime, which is that, you know, you can't learn anything new after a certain age. I mean, there's so much evidence now about brain elasticity. We know for a fact that older brains can learn as easily as younger brains. It may take a bit longer sometimes, but that's because there's so much more to sift through, and there are a lot more neural pathways where people can make connections. And that's the richness in employing or working with older people. But older people are not all the same. They're vastly different. And some people have certain life experiences just like anyone else. But the truth is they have a lot of insecurity. And because we've seen nothing other than young people in the media, in advertisements, unless it's for age-related creams to get rid of wrinkles for women or to dye your hair. You know, we don't see ourselves represented in the media. Although 75% of the world's wealth is in
that demographic.
In that demographic. I mean, it's frightening to think that advertising and marketing haven't picked up on that sufficiently yet to show the reality of how active and well-equipped we are over age 60 to, in fact, you know, make that difference that they need in the workforce, in society, you know, in nonprofit, in everything. So we work with those people, coaching and so on in that capacity as well. But really, we've got to get to the workforce. We've got to help these people overcome, you know, that age bias that, you know, you can't learn something new, or technology is changing so fast. I just read recently that young people in their 20s and 30s have to learn new things all the time. Well, it's been proven that we can learn too.
Yeah, so, exactly. We're all in the same boat, right?
Exactly. So get over it and
yes,
own your
absolutely.
age and be proud.
Yeah,
because
that's wonderful advice.
Yeah, because not everybody gets to be lucky enough to age.
Right. Well, one of the things that we do in the guest blog is we ask folks to share 3 words of advice. And your 3 words are purpose, creativity, and gratitude. So tell us a little bit about why those are important.
Well, I really believe everybody needs to have a reason to get up in the morning. So purpose is all important for everybody, but it becomes particularly important as you age, because you have more time to think about, you know, what your life has been like, and you want to leave legacy. It has all to do with, you know, the hierarchy of needs, and you get around to generativity usually in that 7th stage, and you want to give back. So that's what that has to do with purpose. The other was, I think, what did I say? Creativity. Well, I think for 21st century, innovation is going to be top
Mhm.
and foremost on the list of skills that everybody will be required to have. So
Mhm.
creativity doesn't mean that you are an artist, such as people like you, Trish, but it does mean that they've got the ability to put things together in new and different ways that are purposeful, meaningful, and beneficial
Right.
to society. And then the third was gratitude, because I don't think that we can appreciate well enough what we have unless oftentimes we see what others don't have. So I think it's a really good practice to daily identify what's gone well and what you're grateful for in a day. It's very easy to do, but it really sets you up for positive thinking about everything you do. And I really know that about aging, positivity is essential. It can extend your life 7.5 years. You know,
Wow.
if you feel really good about what you can do, what you can contribute. And that's what we all want, essentially. So,
For sure. Well,
yeah.
I'd like to thank you very much, Helen, for sharing really some wonderful and insightful things that we can actually think about, not only in our professional life, but in our personal life as well. So thank you so much for sharing your story and giving us a little bit more insight into some of the things that you deal with on a regular basis.
Thanks, Trish. It was a pleasure.
And to you, our viewing and listening audience, I'd like to thank you for joining us in this edition of Keeping It Real, where we introduced you to the person behind the logo. I'm Trish Tonai, founder and host for the series. And if you're interested in sharing your business story, visit our website, shareyourstories.online. In the meantime, I thank you for joining us, and we look forward to introducing you and your business while sharing your great idea.